And we're back for number 4, nutmeg. Let me start sharing this little screen. Get us going. Myristica fragrans. And I swear, this is the most fun spice ever just because it has some fun little names. But I love Myristica fragrans. It's like, I love that Latin name. Just one of my favorites. And that's what it looks like. So it's very different. It's not a berry. It's like that little like ball there. It's like a seed pod. See, that's what it looks like right there. So the parts used are the dried kernel or the nut. And other names are musky nut, which is my favorite. I love musky nut. Nothing's better than a musky nut, especially when you're talking about nutmeg. That's the only musky nut I prefer. Okay, Bacuba aku, bishopswort, Myristica aromatica, Nux moscata, Quote, Sadica, Wopala, and Nigella seed. The correspondences are the element is air. So I like we talked about that. Like it's a spice, it smells, it's very aromatic. I don't disagree with that. And again, the planets are all over the place. It's like really a little frustrating. And same with the sign. So the sign is Pisces, and then I had somebody else say moon in Sagittarius. But I don't necessarily disagree with Pisces either, even though it's a water sign, because there's like something like deeply like there's a little hallucinogenic properties to it, even though you shouldn't be doing it because it gets very toxic before it gives you any real hallucinogenic properties. There was like there was some challenge on the internet a while back, and it's very dangerous, so don't do that. Anyway, so astrological sign Pisces, not a bad one. Day of the week is Thursday. Tarot is wands, and I like that actually because I like in air with wands, so it works out kind of perfect for me. Chakra is the root, the sacral, the third eye, and the crown. The sabbat it's associated with is Samhain and Yule, as you might expect, being the nutmegiest musky nut of the bunch. And the deities are Danu, Caradwin, Brigid, and this is the first time I've ever seen Mama Bridget listed. So I thought I'd put it in there just as a shout out to the real Mama Bridget, wherever you So nutmeg, plant information. So this plant it's an evergreen tree and it's native to Indonesia. And this is a seed. It's not a true nut, even though it's a musky nut. It's a seed musky nut. It's not a true nut. And when the seed matures, it splits in two and it reveals the aril. And the mace, it's the mace covered seed. So we're going to look at this. So that red part is the mace. And the nutmeg is in the center there. And then that whole thing, like the mace covered nutmeg, is the aril. And then that whole aril you see is inside the fruit.
Okay. Yes.
That's how it works. That's the plant information on nutmeg. And Indonesia still produces 75% of nutmeg. Grenada produces another 20%. And we're going to talk about a little bit why. So the lore, stories, and cultural import in Rome. So it came early to Europe. It came the other way. It wasn't discovered by Christopher Columbus, and it was in Indonesia, so it's in another part of the world. And so it's known of in Europe already in Rome by the 1st century, because Pliny talks of a tree with 2 flavors, and they assume that he's speaking of nutmeg and mace. And in 6th century, Emperor Henry VI fumigated the streets with nutmeg before his coronation in Rome. I am sure because they stank of excrement. I can only guess.
That's what they assume.
I know, that's what they assumed.
Well, that's what they assume.
Yes. The lore, stories, and cultural import in Europe. So in the Middle Ages, and I put these timetables so we can see what's going on here. So 500 to 1450 is when the Middle Ages were. And so it's used to show off your wealth. So if you would, like wealthy people would grade it into alcoholic beverages and you would show how darn wealthy you were. And then in Constantinople, Istanbul was I can't sing that song though, because we'll probably get in trouble if I start singing a song. But anyway, there's a really great song that I love that song. It's a rat. It's something giants. What's the name of the group? They
Well,
are
a lot of people, but we might be giants. Is that who you're talking
yes,
about?
yes, yes, that's it. I think that's the song. They had Constantinople and Istanbul.
The
Okay,
very old song.
very old song. Yes. Anyway, but they yes, they must have redone that song. So, um,
Hmm.
there you go. So that was during when I was a child. So that brings me back to high school and my friend sitting in a yogurt shop listening to that song when yogurt was brand new. So, frozen yogurt was brand new, not yogurt,
Was
frozen
it
yogurt.
TCBY?
Yeah, like it wasn't, it was some one off in like this little, like, yeah, store. And my friend was a yogurt dispenser and playing me that song. So, um, the war, but so Constantinople, though, is where the war over nutmeg begins. And it is a disgusting war. So sometimes it's in a better place, sometimes it's in a not so good place. But in the 6th century, the Arabs they controlled nutmeg's entry into the spice trade via Constantinople. And they held like control over nutmeg for a long time, and they really cranked up the prices on nutmeg. So in Germany, prices were unnaturally driven up so much with the Arabs in charge that at one time a pound of nutmeg was worth 7 fat oxen. So then I know. So then Portugal comes around. I know. Portugal in 1512, Portugal sends Francisco so I don't even Serrao to find the island where nutmeg grew in, and then bypass go around the Arabs and the Turks. So the Portugal just says we're going to bypass them, and they did that, and they took control of Indonesian trade of nutmeg until the 17th century. And during Portugal's reign over nutmeg, the prices went down. They actually kind of brought more into the market, and it got much more easy to acquire. In fact, in Europe in the Elizabethan era, in 1558 to 1603, that's the Elizabethan era, nutmeg was believed to ward off plague and disease. So it was used, it was kind of like it was available. And then pre-USA, the lore, stories, and cultural import. So in 1667, Manhattan was literally traded by the Dutch to the English for sugar and control of Run Island. So the English had apparently taken it away from the Portuguese at that time. And Run Island in Indonesia was the only place where nutmeg was being produced. So Manhattan, like New York, was bartered for nutmeg control of this trade. And then the Dutch take over, and it's a shit show. It's bad. It's bad. Okay. The Dutch East India Trading Company enters the scene in 1621, and the whole scene becomes a musky nut of bloodshed. It's horrible. It's no good. The Dutch kill and torture and enslave the band of natives for the nutmeg. Um, and it just they crank up the prices again. So then the French, then in the Napoleonic Wars, so they had control of it that whole time until the Napoleonic Wars in 1803 to 1815. That's when the Napoleonic Wars happened. The French smuggle nutmeg trees off of Rhun Island into Zanzibar and Grenada. So now you know why 20% of the nutmeg is grown in Grenada, is because in the Napoleonic Wars, it was smuggled into Grenada. So that's the Grenada flag, and it bears the musky nut. There's Nutmeg, that little musky nut over there on the flag. So cute. I think it's a
Just
really
sitting
cute
there.
depiction of musky nut. Okay, then okay, if that Connecticut person looks like a dum-dum, they tell you a fucking dumb shit. Just listen to this. I don't even know where to go with this because it's not growing. Okay, like nutmeg doesn't grow in Connecticut. Okay, Connecticut is called the nutmeg state. Okay, but it's not known for nutmeg because it's grown there. It's said that people like used to carve nutmegs out of wood and sell them to like unsuspecting tourists and victims. Like it was part of some
Oh,
like charade or something. Like it's not even because it grows there. It's really a weird thing, like wooden
oh my
nutmegs or
God.
I know. Like what like I'm like some like huckster. If so like if that dope who is selling the wood nutmegs looks like a huckster, like
I'm
sort
billiards
of like
man.
snake oil salesman, then you would be right. So the magical properties of nutmeg. Inspiration, intuition, spiritual awareness, everything is possible. So I think a lot of this has to do with its scent because it's very important in the scent world. And a lot of this, like inspiration and intuition and spiritual awareness, it's not only connected to the spiritual awareness is often connected into the slightly semi-hallucinatory properties that it really doesn't have. But it could be because of that, but it's also because of its scent. So healing, so it is healing, and even from patriarchal takeover, even from devastation, and despite the leveraging of money, like nutmeg is deeply healing and it will survive and it will be like it's like a story of finding a way to like evade the taker overs, those that would take over. I feel like it's like got a story about that in there that you can really tie into magically about it being absconded by the French during the Napoleonic Wars, even though that was part of like the whole Western fuckery. It still is like an interesting little like takeover from the Dutch East India Company, who were rather savage.
Mhm.
So it's also used for confidence and releasing fears and the magical properties again. So luck, it's good for luck. So it's like it's traditionally, these are some traditional uses. And like I said, so for court cases, in legal matters, you're supposed to wrap it in a purple cloth or string it on purple string and carry it in court to reveal truth. So it's interesting that I want to go back. Actually, I'm going to go back and I don't care that it's like way back. I'm going to like fucking fly back here because I want to see something because I want to add something different. It just occurred to me. I'm way back. You know what? I should just stop it, but whatever. I'm not going to. We're going to go back further. Correspondences. So it says that the root, sacral, third eye, and crown. I wanted to see if it was on there, but I'm thinking that this is all a little maybe not too right because first of all, we don't have the what I'm thinking is that it's really has a lot to do with your throat chakra. And just because of what, so now let's like fly back here. Let's see if I can just go. There we go. Because it's like all of, so there's like this confidence, first of all, is a product of the throat chakra. Like your confident truth is like your throat chakra. And then this whole thing about revealing the truth. Like, so, like, this whole, like, that, like, whenever you're talking about, like, revealing the truth or, like, bringing truth to people's mouths or things like that, like, I always think of,
Mhm.
like, the throat chakra and air as well. Like, I like it for air too. Like, so, games of luck, traveling. So, also, the scent is to unite people. If shared, it's supposed to create a love bond, and that is definitely tied to its scent. All of these things are, they add a homey scent. It's like a hearthy scent, a Yule scent. It's definitely like brings happiness into the home. So to for clear sight, you're supposed to drink it before meditation or divination and rub oils in your temple for the same. So this would add to the third eye chakra, of course, psychic awareness, dream work, astral travel, air association, or sacral chakra. Money. So in money drawing oils and powders for cash register. And again, the warring, you know where the money comes from. So you know like that this has been a spice that's been used like to torture people for like and unnaturally drive it up the cost so that they can play around with like bartering it against people and also like it devastated like the Dutch East India Company like screwed over like indigenous people and killed them and like for this. So just know that what you're using it for, but okay. So if you're going to go there, it probably works well for that because it's been unnaturally used. It's been used for money for a long time. So I'm sure it's very powerful for money, but just know what kind. On parchment, write the amount of money you want in dove's blood ink, which is not really
Mhm.
dove's blood ink, but it's some like whatever. And then wrap it around a nutmeg and carry it. So for gamblers, and I heard this in a couple different places, you're supposed to bore a hole in the nutmeg and fill it with quicksilver or mercury, and then seal it with green candle wax. And then you're supposed to carry it with 3 coins in a red flannel bag. So gamblers. You could also grind the spring and then sprinkle nutmeg on a green candle. Medicinal properties. It's a carminative, of course. Many of these are going to be carminatives. Aromatic,
Mhm.
astringent, antiseptic, antibacterial, and antioxidant. Stomach digestion, number one, of course. It's a local stimulant to the GI tract. So it's good for nausea and vomiting and diarrhea as well and flatulence. It's also good for hemorrhaging of the womb. It lowers your blood sugar and is used often to preserve meats. It stimulates and tonifies the whole nervous system. So it's supposed to relieve stress, boost brain health, and lower your LDL. Externally, it's often used in a salve for minor skin irritation, and no
Mhm.
plant on earth would be complete without York being in there. So, yield rheumatism cure. Like I said, it is mildly hallucinogenic, and in high doses, it's toxic. And the hallucinogenic properties are outweighed by its toxicity, apparently. So, like, you need, like, if you're taking tablespoons of it, which is the amount needed for hallucinogenic properties, then you're going into the toxic range. So, not a good idea. And these were the sources for allspice from before. And maybe I'll cut and paste this in, but I doubt it.
Mhm.
And there's the ones for nutmeg. So notice the blood. So here, you know what? I want to go back and take note though of that the medicinal properties of the Jamaican pepper plant, pimenta dioica, and allspice. This is where like I would look up that like specifically because that's where I got all that information that I was may have been interesting before about anti-mutagenic properties or whatever. So this is the nutmeg and of course the blood-soaked history of nutmeg. So that is that. So let me stop our sharing. And we can talk about next week and what we're going to go forth with. Are we going to go back to herbs or are we going to go to foods like foodstuffs?
Hmm.
Or vegetables or
I don't know. I don't think I have a preference. What do you think?
I kind of think that there needs to be a place for foodstuffs if we're going to talk about them. Like there's some interesting ones that we like kind of have brought out before, like milk.
Yeah.
It's a weird one that doesn't fit anywhere. Even bread as a thing maybe, but I don't know what else maybe. That's kind of weedy though. I don't know what else.
Um, we could, I mean, I'd be interested in doing like coconut milk. So we could do like foods, but we'd have to see if we can come up with
Well,
some
is
other
coconut
ones.
okay? So coconut would be a what? Like a what would you consider coconut? Where would you put that in?
Well,
It's a
I mean,
fruit. It's a
coconut,
nut.
Is it a fruit?
yes. But if we're talking about milk, like I would be using specifically like the milk of the coconut and not like shavings.
I think
But
maybe it's probably you could talk about it within the confines of coconut. Maybe not.
What if
It's
you, yeah, just did the
okay.
whole coconut?
I mean, we could. I think that that would be so okay. So then what other
that.
foods
So
other
that's what
than
I
milk and
mean.
bread?
Probably not a lot of foods. Probably just
Just
vegetables.
coconut milk.
Maybe. Yeah, if I was thinking vegetables like carrots or like potatoes or probably or like
Well,
um
vegetables, yeah, I feel like we could do vegetables.
you want to do a
I was
vegetable
just trying to think if there was any other foods that we could do, but we could do vegetables.
you want to do vegetables and then we'll take those four as our thing. So herbs, fruits, spices, and vegetables. And then if somebody feels the need to add some a milk somewhere, then they can.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, awesome. So vegetables it is next time. Vegetable bewitchery.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much witchery stuff we find associated with that. I don't know if I've ever like really come across
Well,
like
there's a whole section of
witchy
kitchen
vegetables.
witchery. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of that is like herbs and spices and even fruit to an extent. Like I don't think I've ever seen like zucchini used in a spell or something, you know.
Squash.
But
Squash is part of the Three
what?
Sisters.
Yes.
Like
yeah, you
there's
could do
like
squash.
huge, yeah, like squash is like
I
there.
feel like squash is like such a big
Yeah, somebody needs to do
I,
squash.
I'm
Exactly.
not doing squash. No, that's
Uh,
like that would be like doing individual apples. That's like just way too much. You can have squash.
Squash, right? Because there's like summer and winter squash too. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
like a lot
you
of
squash
kind of
you couldn't
blossoms.
possibly just do squash,
Yeah.
exactly. You
right?
have to break it down in some manageable. Maybe I don't know if you just did squash one time, somebody could just like do
Y- y-
only squash. That would be like a one
Yeah,
like
That
apple.
would be you. I'm not doing squash.
I feel like if somebody were gonna do squash, they'd have to do like a squash series and be like every time, every week for 3 months, they'd have to talk about
Yeah.
squash to
Maybe,
talk about all the squash.
maybe. I don't know. I don't know that there's that much. Maybe. I don't know. It depends on where you're talking about, but where it came from. Where is squash even?
That's true.
Yeah, like where is squash like grown? Like who knows? That's what I mean. And what else besides? So what are like vegetables that are like interesting? There's tons like beans and there's like
Well, are we calling beans vegetables?
Good question.
I don't know. What are we? What are
I don't
yeah,
know. Same with potatoes. I mean, potatoes aren't technically vegetables, right?
Or like a tuber or
Tubers. Yeah.
something. And then the
tubers,
beans, I think, I don't know. They're a big cube. They grow inside a pod. They're a seed, maybe? I have no clue.
I think we could like all like throw them into like vegetables. There's so many. Geez, like
In
corn,
the kitchen, I feel like in the
corn,
kitchen,
avocado. There's so
Avocado's
they're all
fruit, isn't it?
vegetables.
what?
Avocado's a fruit.
It could be one or the other. I think it goes either way. But there's so many different even like I don't know if like there's well, Like even if you're going to root vegetables, so like even onions, and there's so many interesting things.
Mhm.
Turnips. I feel like there's a lot of like lore about a turnip. Like I feel like there's a lot of like interesting, weird, witchy stuff about turnips.
Yeah, I mean turnips were like the original jack-o'-lanterns, right?
I think
Or
so.
was
I
that
think you're right.
parsnip?
I
I think
maybe
it's
it was
turnip,
both.
yeah.
But I
I
think it
don't
was
know.
turnips.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so
It
vegetables
is.
next
Okay.
time, and interpret it as you will. Interpret it as loose. Take the vegetable section as like the catch-all. So if something doesn't neatly fit as a, like an herb, a spice, or a fruit, then just like throw it into the vegetable. Like make it a catch-all, like for the fourth thing. So
Okay.
if you want to do something, okay,
Sounds good.
awesome, woohoo! Okay, I will see you back here next week.
All right. See you next week.
Okay, bye-bye.
Oh, also, real
Yes.
quick,
Yeah.
before we go, I am in June, so we still have like 2 weeks, but I'm gonna miss a lot of June. I'm road tripping to California for a week and
Woohoo!
then road tripping back. Yeah, not gonna have much spare time with that. I'm not very excited about that one. And then I'll be
Aw.
back for like 5 days, and then I'm flying into California, and that's when I'm gonna have time to like do stuff. But just FYI, I will probably miss 2, maybe 3 weeks in California. I think 2.
So
I mean, in
so let
June.
me ask you a question. Can we either go on or bring in a guest host, or do you want us to like either like just us do it, like and I can just present something, or
Whatever you want to do. Yeah, you can bring somebody in if you want to do it yourself or
okay.
bring somebody in to like guest. That's totally fine. I'll
Okay.
give you once I like solidify the dates for sure, I'll let you know. I should be good for like the first Monday in June. Let's see, that's gonna be the 3rd. So I'll be good for that. And then I'll give you like more updated
I'm having like the
as I
gnarliest
get
hot
going.
flash. I'm so sorry. I'm
You are pink. You're very pink. Oh my gosh, now that you mention
oh
it.
my God. Like I'm just sweating. That is so weird.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Oh,
Um,
Sorry.
yes. No, you're
Apologies.
fine. Go
Okay.
splash some
Yeah.
hot
Okay.
water
So
together.
just let me know, and then I'll let me know the exact dates you'll be missing, and then we'll either I'll just come alone, and if Roz wants to present, she can. If she doesn't, then either I'll do it alone or I'll find a guest to sub for a day.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you
Awesome.
next week.
Okay. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
bye bye.
Bye bye.